A messenger arrived and addressed an envelope. Richards took from it a note and read it. It was from Burgess. You saved me in a difficult time. I saved you last night. It was at cost of a lie, but I made the sacrifice freely and out of a grateful heart. None in this village knows so well as you know how brave and good and noble you are. At bottom, you cannot respect me, knowing as you do that matter of which I am accused, and by general voice condemned. But I beg that you will at least believe that I am a grateful man, and it will help me bear my burden. Signed, Burgess. Saved once more, and on such terms. He put the note in the fire. I wish I were dead, Mary. I wish I were out of it all. Oh, these are bitter, bitter days, Edwards. The stabs, through their very generosity, are so deep, and they come so fast. 3 days before the election, each of the 2,000 voters suddenly found themselves in possession of a prized memento, one of the renowned Burgess double eagles. Around one of its faces was stamped these words: "The remark I made to the poor stranger was," and around the other face was stamped these: "Go and reform," signed Pinkerton. Thus the entire remaining refuse of the renowned joke was emptied upon a single head, and with calamitous effect. It revived the recent vast laugh and concentrated it upon Pinkerton, and Harkness's election was a walkover. Within 24 hours after the Richardses had received their checks, their consciences were quieted down, discouraged. The old couple were learning to reconcile themselves to the sin that they had committed. They were to learn, now, that a sin takes on new and real terrors when there seems a chance that it is going to be found out. This gives it a fresh and most substantial and important aspect. At church, the morning sermon was of the usual pattern. It was the same old thing said in the same old way, and they had heard them 1,000 times and found them innocuous, next to meaningless, and easy to sleep under. But now it was different. The sermon seemed to bristle with accusation. It seemed to aim straight and especially at people who were concealing deadly sins. After church they got away from the mob of congratulators as soon as they could and hurried homeward, chilled to the bone at they did not know what, vague, shadowy, indefinite fears. And by chance they caught a glimpse of Mr. Burgess as he turned a corner. He paid no attention to their nod of recognition. He hadn't seen it, but they did not know that. What could his conduct mean? It might mean, oh, a dozen dreadful things. Was it possible that he knew that Richards could have cleared him of guilt in that bygone time, and had been silently waiting for a chance to even up accounts? At home, in their distress, they got to imagining that their servant might have been in the next room, listening when Richards revealed the secret to his wife, that he knew of Burgess's innocence. Next, Richards began to imagine that he'd heard the swish of a gown in there at that time. Next, he was sure he had heard it. They would call Sarah in on a pretext and watch her face. If she had been betraying them to Burgess, it should show in her manner. They asked her some questions which were so random, incoherent, and seemingly purposeless, that the girl felt sure that the old people's minds had been affected by their sudden good fortune. The sharp and watchful gaze which they had bent upon her frightened her, and that completed the business. She blushed, she became nervous and confused, and to the old people these were plain sights of guilt of some fearful sort or other. Without doubt she was a spy and a traitor. When they were alone again, they began to piece many unrelated things together and get horrible results out of the combination. When things had got about to the worst, Richards was delivered of a sudden gasp, and his wife asked, "Oh, what is it? What is it?" "The note, Burgess's note. Its language was sarcastic. I see it now." He quoted, "At bottom you cannot respect me, knowing, as you do, of that matter of which I am accused." Oh, it is perfectly plain now. God help me. He knows that I know. You see the ingenuity of the phrasing. It was a trap, and like a fool I walked into it. And Mary, oh, it is dreadful. I know what you're going to say. He didn't return your transcript of the pretended test remark. No, kept it to destroy us with. Mary, he has exposed us to some already. I know it. I know it well. I saw it in a dozen faces after church. Ah, he wouldn't answer our nod of recognition. He knew what he'd been doing. In the night the doctor was called. The news went around in the morning that the old couple were rather seriously ill, prostrated by the exhausting excitement growing out of their great windfall, the congratulations and the late hours, the doctor said. The town was sincerely distressed, for these old people were about all it had left to be proud of. 2 days later the news was worse. The old couple were delirious and were doing strange things. By witness of the nurses, Richards had exhibited checks for $8,500. No, for an amazing sum, $38,500. What could be the explanation of this gigantic piece of luck? The following day the nurses had more news, and wonderful. They had concluded to hide the checks, lest harm come to them. But when they searched, they were gone from under the patient's pillow, vanished away. The patient said, "Let the pillow alone. What do you want?" We thought it best that the checks, you will never see them again. They are destroyed. They came from Satan. I saw the hell brand on them, and I knew they were sent to betray me to sin. Then he fell to gambling strange and dreadful things which were not clearly understandable, and which the doctor admonished them to keep to themselves. Richards was right. The checks were never seen again. A nurse must have talked in her sleep, for within 2 days the forbidden gabblings were the property of the town. And they were of a surprising sort. They seemed to indicate that Richards had been a claimant for the sack himself, and that Burgess had concealed the fact, then maliciously betrayed it. Burgess was taxed with this and stoutly denied it, and he said it was not fair to attach weight to the chatter of a sick old man who was out of his mind. Still, suspicion was in the air, and there was much talk. After a day or two it was reported that Mrs. Richards' delirious deliveries were getting to be duplicates of her husband's. Suspicions flamed up into conviction now, and the town's pride in the purity of its one undiscredited important citizen began to dim down and flicker towards extinction. 6 days passed, then the news came. The old couple were dying. Richard's mind cleared in the latest hour, and he sent for Burgess. Burgess said, "Let the room be cleared. I think he wishes to say something in privacy." "No," said Richards, "I want witnesses. I want you all to hear my confession, so that I may die a man and not a dog. I was clean, artificially, like the rest. And like the rest, I fell when temptation came. I signed a lie and claimed the miserable sack. Mr. Burgess remembered that I had done him a service, and in gratitude and ignorance, he suppressed my claim and saved me. You know the thing that was charged against Burgess years ago. My testimony and mine alone could have cleared him, and I was a coward and left him to suffer disgrace. No, no, Mr. Richards, my servants betrayed my secret to him. No one has betrayed anything to me." And then he did a natural and justifiable thing. He repented of the saving kindness which he had done me, and exposed me as I deserved. Never, I make oath, out of my heart I forgive him. Burgess's impassioned protestations fell upon deaf ears. The dying man passed away without knowing that once more he had done poor Burgess a wrong. The old wife died that night. The last of the sacred 19 had fallen a prey to the fiendish sack. The town was stripped of the last rag of its ancient glory. Its mourning was not showy, but it was deep. By act of the legislature, upon prayer and petition, Hadleyburg was allowed to change its name to never mind what. I will not give it away. And leave one word out of the motto that for generations had graced the official seal. It is an honest town once more, and the man will have to rise early that catches it napping again.